The Rollers started day one of the Asia Oceania Championships with a bang, defeating the hapless Kuwait by 87 points, 112 to 25. But as we come along to day two of the Asia Oceania Championships, tougher challenges await. The Australians, fresh off that victory, would take on the Japanese, who had two victories on the opening day of action here at the Dandenong Basketball Stadium. Hello everyone and welcome to day two. I'm Darren Boyd and I'm going to be bringing you all the action right throughout the week as ABC2 brings you the coverage of this qualification tournament for the World Championship of Wheelchair Basketball to be held in Birmingham next year. I mentioned that there's been a few results so far yesterday as well as today. Let's recap the results so far. Japan and Korea, an important game for the Japanese, setting up their tournament with that 18-point victory over the Koreans, who look pretty good and perhaps might be the third best side in the competition. China defeating Malaysia, Australia thrashing Kuwait, and then rounding off the matches last night, Japan defeating China by 26. Earlier today, the Australians have already played one match and a thumping over the Malaysians there. An unblemished start for the Australians, an 83-point victory over Malaysia. And then just recently, Korea defeating China by 15 points in a pretty hotly fought contest. Joining me as he did yesterday and will do right throughout the week is former Australian Paralympic and rollers star Brendan Dowler. Brendan, welcome back. You've had a look at some of the games so far. Any surprises so far?
No real surprises so far, Darren. Results have gone pretty much as planned. The Aussies looking for a big game today against another Paralympic standard team in Japan.
Well, the Japanese finished in the top 8 at the Paralympic Games in Beijing last year. Australia, of course, taking home the gold. But Australia did beat them in the tournament. They beat them earlier this year in July, but they're a bit of a challenge, aren't they?
They certainly are. There's a number of players in Japan to look out for. They're very well drilled, the Japanese. They go hard and they just don't give up. These Japanese will be a very tough game today.
Well, one of the things that we notice about the Australian side is their power game. They rely a lot on the points production from the big guys inside, Justin Eveson, Brad Ness and Bill Latham. But the Japanese seem to bring a slightly different look.
They sure do. The Australians will find it a lot tougher today. I don't think they'll be able to get to that power game inside as easily as what they have in those first two games. And the Japanese are very good outside shooters as well, so they will really stretch the Australian defence and be a big test for them.
Well, the man who really is the star of world wheelchair basketball is Justin Eveson, the Australian captain for this tournament, and he started off pretty well yesterday. He was the International Player of the Year last year.
World class. I mean, what more can you say about Justin? He's right up there. He'll lead this team magnificently today, and he's a real powerhouse inside, so really watch out for Justin today to put on a big one.
One of the best Australian players, but he came into this tournament with a bit of an injury cloud as Sean Norris, and he went all right yesterday, but you're expecting a bit more from him.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in yesterday's telecast that he was probably about 80%, but he's been worked on by the physiotherapy of Ian Loopy Lowther. I'm not quite sure why they call him Loopy, but he's very good physio, and he's got Shawnee back to 100%, so we're looking for a big game from him today.
And he's nicknamed the Wiz, so we're expecting a lot of things on court from him.
Sure are. You watch his chair skills, he's got a great inside-outside game, really maturing as a player as well, so...
Grant Meisens as well. He was sitting in your position just a few months ago at the Rollers World Challenge, and he's a very experienced man.
Grant's definitely been around. He brings a lot of experience to the team. He's a hard worker. They'll probably look for him today to be a very strong defensive impact, but he also creates for a lot of the other teammates as well.
For the Japanese, their team leader is a man called Shingo Fuji. He is the point guard, and he really does control the tempo for the Japanese.
He sure does. He'll run the point for the Japanese, and I remember one thing playing against him, the old no-look pass, so the Australians will have to be wary of that, but yeah, if they can shut him down, they'll go a long way to controlling the Japanese offence.
And what do you think about Ryo Fujimoto? He's had 32 points and 31 in the two matches so far.
Well, he's just a power of strength for them, and that'll be a key for the Australians to shut him down. If they can close him down, he's obviously their main scorer, so shut him down and the Japanese will make it very tough.
All right, Brendan, we're looking forward to your thoughts throughout the match. Joining us on the sidelines once again is Olivia McGrath. Olivia, welcome back. What's the goss from the two camps?
Thanks, guys. Well, it is very exciting, as always, and as you mentioned, the first time for the Aussies in this tournament to really show their wares. It's also the first real test for the youngsters on the team. Keep your eye out for Adam Deans. He's been shooting the lights out.
The Australians ready to go for this match 3 of the Asia Oceania Championships for them. And they've got a pretty powerful starting 5 lining up. Justin Eveson, Sean Norris, Michael Hartnett, Jeremy Doyle gets a start for Australia, and Brad Ness. Brendan, it's a pretty potent offensive team.
That's a very powerful lineup there. There's 4 of the 5 starting 5 from the Beijing gold medal game there, actually. JD in there as well, and yeah, it's very strong.
Well, for the Japanese, they've had a late withdrawal, which is very very unfortunate for them. Their captain, Shingo Fuji, has actually succumbed to a fever, and unfortunately for them, he won't be taking any part in the game. So they're going to start with Tomi Masabuchi, Yusufu Kogu, Satoshi Sato, Dosiki Tsuchiko, and Ryo Fujimoto.
That's a big hole for the Japanese to fill there. Number 4, Fuji, for them, he runs the point, and so they're going to need to find somebody else to fill that hole. And that's a shame, actually. We're looking forward to a very good game today. So
yeah, he's been in great form as well in the first couple of matches. He's been dishing out the dimes, Brendan. 6 assists in one, 8 assists in the other, and the man he's been looking for is Fujimoto that hasn't let him down. The last time these sides met was in an unofficial match. It was back in July at the Rollers World Challenge. The Rollers defeating Japan by 42. But Brendan, the match which I reckon you'll remember best is the quarter-final in Beijing, where Australia only just got over the Japanese by 20 points in a pretty tough contest.
Yeah, I mean, 20 points sounds like a bit of a blowout there, but it was a much closer game than that, I can promise you. And the Japanese, a very tenacious team. They'll just keep coming at you all day, so the Aussies are really going to be on their game here today.
So what would the Australians have learnt from their 2 matches so far? I mean, they're pretty comfortable wins over Kuwait and also Malaysia, but this is the sternest test of the tournament, isn't it?
It sure is. I mean, this is the real deal. Japan, they're a Paralympic team. Sure, those 2 games have been a bit of a walk in the park for them, but they'll have used those as training in a way to go through the process, to nail down their offence and their defence, and we'll see that on show here today.
So there are the Japanese. They've also recorded a couple of victories so far, as we saw a moment ago. Firstly over China, and then firstly over Korea, I should say, and then late last night over China. So they are ready for their sternest test of the tournament so far.
We would expect these 2 on form to come 1 and 2 in this tournament. Stranger things have happened, but if we look at the results, Australia currently ranked number 1 and the Japanese number 7 in the world based on the Beijing Paralympics. So this will be a top-class game.
So we're ready for a start. The Australians will be going to the left of screen in the opening half, as all the players just exchange pleasantries. Let's see how pleasant things are when the action gets underway, Brendan. We saw last night Nizar Mohammed from Kuwait. We liked his form. He was nice and fiery and passionate. Let's hope for a similar showing from a couple of the Japanese.
Yes, the Japanese can be very passionate and very fired up as well, but the Aussies, they'll be there to meet them. Don't worry about that.
So Ryo Fujimoto will go against Brad Ness, and tip control goes the way of the Japanese. It's Sato. Masabuchi now. Watch for number 15, Fujimoto. That's where the pass went instantly. Eveson got a hand in. Fujimoto's there. He can't put it away.
Very uncharacteristic miss there from their scoring machine. Great defence from the Australians, though. Pressured him into a miss.
Jeremy Doyle over to Ness. Last night against Kuwait, the Australians shot 18 of their first 20 points from inside the keyway. Sean Norris got his wheels in the paint that time, but couldn't finish.
Shaky start from both teams.
Yeah, and the Japanese, there is a turnover. Kogo lost control, and Eveson just swoops in, can't finish it off. Norris is there. Eveson now eventually puts it away. The first basket took 48 seconds.
Yeah, a few misses there, but Justin settled himself under the basket and made sure of that one.
The Australians with some full court pressure already, just trying to wear the Japanese out a little bit, rattle them in the early stages. Not as experienced or composed a side as the Australians, and it shows there. Fujimoto just threw that a little bit in front of Sato, perhaps a bit ambitious, looking for the perfect pass instead of the percentage one.
Yes, inside there to what's a low disability classification player, so he probably struggles a bit with his balance on that pass, so it needs to be right on the money.
There's Norris. Eveson's making space now. He was trapped in the back half. Good job from Sato. Single numbers on the shot clock. Ness is there. He's fouled by Kogo.
Yeah, Justin was actually holding one of the defenders in the backcourt there, and then he was looking to break down through the middle of the key there. Unfortunately, the Japanese filled that. Well, unfortunately for Australia, good for the Japanese, that they filled the gap.
Eveson finds Norris. Doyle's free at the top of the key, but he's not a shooting option, so Sean Norris decides to fire away. Eveson fights and wins it. Over to Ness. He had 21 points this morning against Malaysia in limited minutes. He started very well here again, Brad Ness.
There's that inside power game from Australia. We've had Eveson and Ness both under the basket inside. They'll continue to look for that all game.
Good pass from the Japanese at half court. It was Sato, got it towards Masabuchi, but he was intimidated by the presence of the big Australian players. Now Eveson quickly down the floor. Doyle set a good screen for Norris. Fujimoto is there. Now Ness against a smaller opponent. He does well.
Again, they'll just keep going to that. If the Japanese can't shut that down, it's going to be a very long night.
It's Australia 6, Japan 0. Tsuchiko, second top scorer for Japan against China last night. He had 14. Shooting from the perimeter over a smaller classification opponent. Great job from Jeremy Doyle. And Easton swoops in again. Here's Ness. Now Norris. The Australians couldn't get the transition play they were after, so they slow it down. Pretty content to run the clock in the early stages. 8 seconds. Ness's shot is off target. Tsuchiko reels it in. Now Masabuchi. There's a foul called and pretty heavy collision. Michael Hartnett and Fujimoto.
A bit of heavy contact there. Mikey Hartnett in the thick of it. There's no surprise about that. Lionheart Mikey getting stuck right in there.
So he tried to set the block there for Fujimoto, and then Brad Ness came in and just gave Fujimoto a bit of a shoulder there and ended up putting his teammate on the deck.
Yes, a bit of contact there. One in, all in, you could say.
Just flying the flag. So it's a Japanese ball as Ryo Fujimoto wheels over. He needs to change chairs by the looks of it, or at least change a wheel. Ryo Fujimoto, a 4.5 classification player, which means that he has obviously doesn't have as significant a disadvantage or as significant as disability as some of the players out on the court, Brendan.
No, he doesn't. He's an amputee there. You can see he's standing on one leg, and all of these higher classification amputees, they've lost a foot or half a leg, and I suppose some people might see that as a bit of an inconvenience, but these guys just get on with it. They train hard, they play hard, and they're out here showing us their skills here tonight.
So the classification ranges from 4.5 down to 1 point, with the 1 point being the least physically able, and we'll have a little bit of a story coming up for you after. We'll have an explanation a little bit later in the program as the Australians just having a chat. Ryo Fujimoto's almost ready to rejoin the action. Just fixing up his strapping.
I believe they get 1 minute equipment timeout. If there's a problem with a chair, the team or the player is allowed to have 1 minute to change his tire and get himself settled. This seems to have gone a little bit more than a minute, but he's good to go now.
Yeah, it did seem to take a long time, pretty characteristically long time, Brendan. So obviously no penalty that time. Fujimoto guarded by Eveson. He just tried to pull off a quick pass into Tsuchiko.
Japanese ball.
It's going to be a Japanese ball. Kogo's gone down to take the pass. Australia 6, Japan 0. 3 minutes in, Fujimoto has had a couple of attempts, both been short. Here's Norris. Passes into Eveson. Has some time, good composure from the big man underneath.
Gee, I'm going to sound like a broken record tonight. Inside of that power game yet again. The Japanese have got to stop that.
All points from Australia from the two 4.5 point players, Eveson and Ness. Fujimoto got the pass down to Kogo. Excellent pass inside to Sato, but he was just a little bit too far into the basket. Pass came perhaps a fraction late. Now the Australians break. Ness, block set by Eveson. Brad Ness can shoot that. He's just pointing Norris to go high. They want to set up a play. Doyle. Hartnett now. Shoots from a long way out. That's a great basket for Michael Hartnett.
Beautiful shot, Mikey Hartnett. Left him alone at the top of the foul line there. Money from there, Mikey.
Yes, and the timeout is called by the Japanese. As we see this brilliant play from Michael Hartnett. They've got their concerns. 10-0 is the scoreline. Japan haven't registered a point in the opening 4 minutes and 5 seconds. The Malaysians didn't register a point in the fourth quarter against the Aussies earlier in the match. But you wouldn't expect that from a team of Japan's calibre.
Good start.
Here's Australian coach Ben Ettridge.
Chair on chair is what's leading to it, all right? They're getting stuck 18 feet away from the basket. A couple of times you've switched off good, and then when you've gone to the pass, you've gone there, chair first, all right? Hey, at some stage they're going to put a run together. A run might be 1 basket, it might be 2 baskets. We're going to make sure that we don't let it turn into 4 or 5, and next thing it's 10 all, all right? They can have a run, but a run is 1, all right? Then we get it back under control. Great start. Excellent work.
Okay, Dad, we're not letting them score. We're not letting them near the basket. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go now.
Pretty content Australian coach there, Brendan.
Yes, he was happy with that start, but he's preparing them for the storm, and there'll be a storm to come at some point from the Japanese. You know, every game has ebbs and flows in it, so the Australians will be ready for it.
So Japan ball. Kogo and Masabuchi. Tsuchiko now as the Japanese are caught up at halfway. Fujimoto, excellent pass inside to Kogo. Again, they miss another layup, Japan. They're under pressure. If they're going to be under pressure all night if they're going to miss those shots. Olivia McGrath was in the Japanese timeout as Eveson just easily coasts in for the layup. It's Australia 12, Japan 0. Liv, what was the mood like over in the Japanese timeout?
Well, Coach Noguchi just trying to calm his players down, getting them to focus on defence. He wants them just to not panic and take more time when they're shooting and just to push as hard as they can.
And how are your Japanese skills, Liv? Improved after Sydney?
Hi. Konnichiwa.
The Australians doing a great job in defence, keeping Fujimoto away from the basket. Few options there, and that gets them into their transition offence very quickly. They'll have a turnover there.
Yeah, disappointment for the Australians, just throwing the ball away needlessly. Japanese look like they're about to make some wholesale substitutions.
On screen there, we can only see 3-on-3. They're keeping big number Fujimoto 15 in the backcourt as much as they can. They don't want to even let him get into the front court to play offence. So
now he has the ball, 4 seconds on the shot clock, and it's short again. He never had good position. And now Ines throws it up to Eveson. He'll put this one away. And the foul. So he doesn't actually make the basket. He probably had one eye on Masabuchi. Probably a bit disappointed not to have finished that off, Brendan. But
yeah, Justin's somewhat of a perfectionist, even when he is being smashed. Yeah, he would be disappointed not to get it. But I'm not even going to talk about these 2 foul shots he's going to make, though. I put the jinx on him last night, so.
Well, you've really gone the soft option early there, Brendan. You messed him up on his first free throw, and you haven't been getting the call one since. I think we might have to get you a bit braver than that.
No. He had a word to me after the game last night, and I've been told to keep my mouth shut. No, he won't be happy with his foul shooting last night, so we look for an improved performance today.
Yeah, he didn't make too many, and then at the end of the game, he actually missed the last 2 free throws of the match. He'd be pretty disappointed. Only shot 3 out of 8 for the game. Normally a bit better percentage than that.
Yeah, he's a fine free throw shooter, as we can see there. That's a Justin Eveson, we know.
So Australia 14, Japan 0. The substitutions have been made by Japan. All players have been exchanged for them except for Fujimoto, number 15. Now this is Tokarin. He's going to have a battle with Michael Hartnett. 9 seconds on the shot clock. The rock star, Yasu. Shooting from outside. Misses. Ness collects the rebound. Eveson's moving very quickly down the court. Will Norris be able to find him? There's a foul called on Kaoya.
All these missed shots from the Japanese are just playing right into the Australians' hands, getting transition basketball out of there, and either they're getting layups or they're getting into foul trouble. So great defence from the Australians is leading into great offence.
So 6 minutes have been played and the Japanese still haven't been able to score. Rest 24 seconds for the Aussies. Justin Eveson is called for an offensive foul.
Yeah, he was judged to have position. The Japanese player had position there, and Justin tried to take it off him, which isn't allowed, whether you got the ball or not. We'll have another look here. Oh, okay.
Looked like he was still moving.
That's the referee's made the call, though, and he's the man with the whistle.
And you didn't like it at all, did you, Brendan?
Well, we're all human. We're all human.
Tokarin, there was a foul called. The basket's been waved away. That's disappointing there for Kazuyuki Tokarin. The foul was off the ball. I think it was before Tokarin actually collected the pass, so it's going to be a Japanese ball from the side. The advantage rule, as we see in various codes of football, not being applied in wheelchair basketball, of course. This is Kaoya over to Fujimoto. Mismatch there with Hartnett. Oh, it's in and out.
Yes, they've been putting a lot of pressure on Fujimoto, so his arms might be a little bit tired, but we'll see how he goes from the foul line here.
So here is Ryo Fujimoto. He was one of the stars of the Rollers World Challenge back in July. Australia taking on Japan as well as Canada and also Great Britain. And the Japanese gave Australia a bit of a fright in the early stages before the Aussies pulled away, and they almost knocked off Canada and Great Britain, but ended up losing all of their matches at the tournament, but the latter two by relatively close margins. And this man was named in the All-Star 5, averaged over 25 points a game. And he records the first score for the Japanese at 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Well, 6 minutes and 20 seconds have elapsed. Hartnett, he shot one from there earlier. This time he went to Eveson. Perhaps a little bit too team-focused there, Michael Hartnett.
Yeah, he could have taken that shot, Mikey, but unselfishly dished it in. But Jay had been sitting there for a little while, so maybe he rushed the shot. But good steal there by Jeremy Doyle's got a hand on the ball. Oh, he's got back to Japan.
And it's spilt back the Japanese way. Suzuki, 5 seconds on the shot clock. Fujimoto needs to get busy. It's going to be a turnover. It's going to be an Australian ball. The ball will beat Sean Norris out of play. So it's a violation against the Japanese.
Great defence there from the Australians, really nailing down the Japanese offence, and they're finding it very hard to get anything reasonable up.
Michael Hartnett, or in fact it's Jeremy Doyle that takes a break for Australia, and Yannick Blair into the game.
Yannick Blair from Horsham, I believe. That's a few hours outside of Melbourne. He travels in here, he plays for the Dandenong club. Great to see him on the floor here against the Japanese tonight.
It's the wrong side of Melbourne, that's for sure.
It's a long way. He travels a long way. He's dedicated to his sport.
Yes, for those that aren't familiar with their Victorian geography, Horsham is, well, it's about 3 hours, I'd say, northwest of Melbourne. And to get to Dandenong, which is southeast of Melbourne, you're looking at about another 45 minutes to an hour as well.
Yeah, each way. So yeah, that's they've obviously got very good hairdressers out there. I can see Yannick's hair. He's got a bit of product in there by the look of it.
Absolutely. We'll get a closer look at him later on. That's a poor shot from Yasu. Australia led by 13. Norris. Hartnett put the block on. That was superb.
That's a low point of special there, Mikey Hartnett. That's your basket. Beautiful seal there, and Sean Norris around under the baseline, and nice layup. Easy.
Yasu got it to Fujimoto. The Japanese in a little bit of trouble at half court. They eventually get it over. This is Suzuki. Tokareen. Ness reaches over the top of him. Did well not to foul, but certainly put the shot off. Yasu now, his first shot was pretty ordinary. That one was marginally better, hitting the ring at least, but it couldn't add to the Japanese total. Eveson inside. Fujimoto looked like he was getting a bit frustrated. He gave a bit of a push and then a couple of slaps at the ball. And Justin Eveson did enough to put the ball away and drew the foul.
Yeah, inside of that power game again. Here we see Brad Ness playing the point guard. Passes up to Justin, misses the first, gets an offensive stat there and puts away the second and a foul. So do we put our money on him for this foul shot? I will.
That's good, Brendan. I'm pleased to see you've gotten a little bit braver. He made his first two, as we see on the stats there.
Just wanted to see how he's feeling today.
And he rattles that one home. So it's Australia 19, Japan 1. In a match that we really expected to be the sternest test that the Rollers would have. The Japanese have been a little bit disappointing in the early stages, yet to make a field goal.
Yeah, missing a player there, the point guard there. We expected him to be running the show. He's not here. They're obviously missing him, and you know, that was a fairly stagnant sort of offense there, and they just put up a shot from the outside.
90 seconds to go in the opening quarter. Latham's into the game. He kept Fujimoto out of the play. He makes a run at the ball. Now Latham, his first shot of the match. Off target.
Nice open shot there from Bill. That's a shot to take. If they're going to leave you alone there, you've got to take that.
Oh, Hartnett slaps at the ball. Tokareen ends up at ground level.
There's the replay. Mikey getting stuck right into his opposite lad pointer there. And what, me, sir? No, sir.
So he just didn't seem to have the right chair position there, and he'll sit down, Michael Hartnett.
You've got two rookie low classification players on at the moment then, Jeremy Doyle and Yannick Blair. So coach rotating through early in this game now. The Australians have really settled into a bit of a pattern, and the Japanese are finding it very tough to score.
So Kazuyuki Tokarin up to the free throw line. He has a little bit of a wheel up and then can't quite get the rhythm.
That's an unusual shooting style there. You see, he takes a bit of a push to get some momentum, to get range in his shot, but as long as his back wheels, which are considered his feet, don't go over that foul line before the ball goes through the hoop, then that's permitted.
That's why he's wheeling off to the side, and he couldn't make either free throw. Norris, former National Wheelchair Basketball League MVP, passes it to the man that was the MVP of the finals this year, Justin Eveson. Loose pass to Doyle. Blair keeps it alive. It's going to be a shot clock violation unless Eveson can throw it up, which he does, but it's short. Pretty poor offense there from the Aussies.
That was a little bit untidy. Yeah, looking to get some combinations going there. Obviously newer players on the court, but they'll learn from that, and that's part of the process here. The younger guys are here to see how the process works, how the tournament play goes, and yeah, I mean, they'll go away from that and they'll learn something.
Fujimoto gets it slapped away from him. Here's Yasu. Latham keeps it alive. No, he doesn't.
Good hustle, Billy Latham, getting stuck right in there. Good to see.
A 19-year-old. He's already played over 50 games for Australia. Fujimoto under some pressure. 4 seconds on the shot clock. Wants to get a little bit of space away from Eveson. Eventually does that. Good play there from Fujimoto. That's their first field goal.